Conversation with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keaton Podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I am Brent Jackson.
All right, Brent, today we have Sherif Abdalla from Compass. Sherif has been in the business. How long have you been in the business, Sherif?
In September, it'll be 10 years.
10 years in the business. God, it seems like longer, man, because you've had quite a career already.
Yeah, well, it's been a long 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like, because I've been in this for about 20 years, and I thought just by nature of your name being everywhere all over the city that you've been here for as long as I've been here. But that's good.
No, I started in September 2013 is when I got my license.
Okay. So you're a local guy. You went to Langley High School right here in McLean.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Lived in the D.C. area all my life, born in Maryland, moved to McLean when I was around 7 or 8 years old, and I've lived between McLean and Arlington for the last 40 years.
Right, okay.
So what was college life like? You leave McLean to go to JMU, which is not too far from here.
Yeah, well, before that, I actually went to GW my freshman year. My father used to be a professor before he passed away at GW, and so you get 4 years of free tuition as one of the children of someone that worked there for that long. And so my mom said, go to GW, try it. It's a really good school, but it was a little too close for home. And
did you stay in your house or in the dorms?
I stayed. Well, that's even a longer story. My mom, I call it. I say she tricked me a little bit. She said, because of who your dad was, and my mom worked there too. She was a medical director at GW. We've got you your own room at college, which at the time, you're nervous about who your roommate's going to be. You're just like, what's going on with college and so forth. So you got your own room. I'm like, this is amazing. I got my own room in college. I was so excited. Well, little did I know, she put me in a dorm called Mitchell Hall, which is around the corner from the cool freshman dorm, which was Thurston Hall. And so I had my own room, but the rest of the entire dorm was juniors and seniors who all they wanted to do was study all day, and there was no social life for me.
So you're just like very lonely in there.
Oh, yeah. And so I would come home. We didn't have classes on Friday. I'd get my laundry. I'd have my mom pick me up on Thursday night, and I'd come home every single weekend. And the only guys I'd met there were a couple baseball players that I knew from growing up. And so I'd hang out with them, but when they were on the road playing ball, I didn't have anyone to hang out with. And so about halfway through the year, I said, I can't do this. And so I told my mom, I'm going to apply to Virginia schools. I'm going to apply to JMU and Virginia Tech. She got all excited because Virginia Tech's a great engineering school, and coming from the Middle East, you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And I'll go up one weekend and I'll let you know how it is. So it's the week after spring break, and I go up. I drive to JMU, have some friends both at JMU and Tech, and I look around and I see all the girls and everybody come back from spring break, and I was supposed to go like Friday to JMU, Saturday to Virginia Tech, and come back Sunday. I never made it to Tech, and still, what is it now? 30 years later, I've never.
You never gone to Blacksburg?
Never been to Blacksburg.
Wow.
Yeah. So I ended up at JMU for 3.5 years, and which now looks like a pretty good decision now that how fast JMU's grown and the alumni network that JMU's created. But back then when we were there, JMU was a smaller school. It used to be an all-girls school or all-women's school, and so but it was a great experience.
Yeah, it's an impressive campus because we drive through there on our way to West Virginia, and we just recently started going to Massanutten, the ski resort there. So I'm fascinated how it's gone from like my 20 years of driving through to get to West Virginia, how it's expanded right there on.
Well, when I was there, it only used to be on the one side of 81.
Right.
We had maybe one building on the other side. Now, I haven't been there in 20 years, but I heard it's just exploded, and it's very hard to get into. I probably wouldn't be able to get into it now. Back then,
it's the case with a lot of schools.
Yes,
like that era, like where you could apply and get in. It's like it's too competitive now. It's crazy.
That's right.
So after school, you were in the restaurant business.
Yeah. So I was telling someone on the way in here today. I've had kind of sort of 3 careers. Right out of college, I took a sales job with a hardware company, technology company, and then for the next probably 5, 6, 7 years, I sold software and hardware Last job being Blackboard, which I'm sure
That's educational software. Yeah.
yeah, local DC company started, um, and I became one of the top salespeople there, and realized that a good lesson, and I was working for somebody else and making them a lot of money, and I didn't have an entrepreneurial background, and so speaking to a couple friends, they said you just got to jump ship, cross the line. Once you cross that entrepreneurial line, you'll never come back to corporate world, but you can always go back to corporate world with your skills. And so just finished as #1 sales guy in all of Blackboard, and quit my job and said, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to figure something out. So I called a local commercial real estate broker by the name of Matt Alexander, he's still around, and said, do you have any franchises you're representing? Because I need a job, I need a company. And there was a Robex that was being built here on 17th in Connecticut, and the guy wanted to get out of it. It wasn't finished yet. He was the air developer. And so I scrounged up all the money I had and took an SBA loan for the rest. And next thing you know, I was a smoothie and acai bowl king of DC. It was the first Robex outside of the state of California. So I took a big risk, but I figured I'd learn how to do inventory, hiring, accounting, marketing, all in one job. And so I did that, but that led me into the hospitality business because I was walking up Connecticut Avenue one day and I saw a sign that said for lease. And it was, I called the number, and this, I don't know how old he was, but he was pretty old. The landlord comes down and goes, you want to come up and check it out? I said, sure. It's kind of like this. You walk up these narrow stairs, get to the second level, and it was a demolished marketing company office. And we walked around, and he's like, what do you want to do in here? And I said, I don't know. What do you think I should put in here? I was just walking to lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes, you should put a nightclub in here. I said, okay. What are you charging? He told me some number. We shook hands. That was back in the day where you could shake someone's hand and do a deal. It's 2005 maybe, and 2006. And I had a deal for a lease on a 3,000 square foot nightclub.
Okay.
I didn't know where I was going to get the money. I didn't know what to do, but I knew that I'd been going out enough to know that I knew what people wanted. And so I called two buddies of mine up and said, do you guys want to be in the nightclub business? They're like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, we got a nightclub. They're like, where? I said, on Connecticut Avenue. They said, great. And we created something called Play Lounge, which was, I think, 2,500, 3,000 square foot lounge. And next thing you knew, I was a fast casual smoothie owner during the day and a nightclub owner at night. I'd get up at 6 a.m., work from 7 to 6 p.m., 6:30, come home, shower, change, and go to the nightclub from 9 o'clock to 3 in the morning. I did that the nightclub was open about 4 nights a week. But I was, young, just hungry.
What was the vibe of Play Lounge though? Like, was it DJ like standard thing or?
Yeah,
what?
great question. I think at the time we were only the second lounge in DC, kind of like small intimate lounge, and so we liked to play like top 40 hip hop. House music wasn't really around yet, but we really wanted to. Based on the name, we wanted people just to have a good time. I think people take themselves too seriously around here sometimes. And so we had this just kind of fun, exciting vibe. It was back also the day where you could be selective who you let in to nightclubs. And so, and it was kind of this unique space where you walked up this narrow staircase that was like almost leaning to one side. It was, a really small, intimate space. We built these bathrooms that had it was unisex before unisex was cool, and so everybody would stand in line together, men and women, and just get to know each other that way. We'd have great parties. We had a lot of celebrities come in there. Everybody from David Beckham, Lionel Richie, Jamie Foxx, Christina Aguilera.
So is there a list that you have to get into the club?
We had a list, but we also had promoters too. That was back when promoters were big, and so it just depended on the night. But we thought we were being pretty creative, but it was so early in the process, we didn't really know what we were doing at the time. But we were making money, having a good time, and meeting a lot of really interesting people. What you realize in the hospitality business, especially the nightclub business, is you get everybody coming through there, right? We had Laurent from Cafe Milano calling us and saying, we have this guy and this guy in town, and they want to, go out. We're gonna put them through you. Derek Jeter was one of our cooler guys that came through one night, and so we met a lot of really interesting and neat people throughout the time, and a lot of local athletes. And that's kind of how I started in the real estate business, is because a lot of those guys started trusting me with a lot of other things, and so it was a natural progression into real estate.
Yeah, there's like that kind of skill of like obviously entertaining, but it's hospitality, right? It's like the club life. It's like
Customer
making sure your
service.
guests are comfortable, having a great time. Yeah, always feeling cool. And so that works really well for real estate too.
It does.
I'm fascinated though. You're walking to lunch, and then you meet some random guy. He goes up, and you have no clue that you're going to start a nightclub. And you guys are just, having a powwow, and he's like, "You should do a nightclub." And you're like, "Great, let's do a nightclub." And then it's like a huge success. I mean, like, did you have a business plan or a business partner, or like, how did that even come to fruition?
Right when I started the Robex, a good friend of mine by the name of Bill Dean, he's a local Georgetown guy.
Mhm.
He had asked me if I wanted to invest in another lounge called iBar. And I said, I wish I could, but I just took $100,000, and that's all I had at the time. And I opened up this Robex. And so you should talk to another friend of mine that I went to college with. He's got some money. At the time, if you guys remember, you could flip condos without even, owning them. You could flip the contracts in 2003, 2004, 2005.
Mhm.
So I had a friend that was doing that in Arlington, and he had made a lot of money, but he wanted to get out of that. And so I introduced the two of them, and they opened up iBar. And I saw how successful it was. And I thought to myself, pretty naive at the time, but if they can do it, I can do it, right? And so that gave me a little bit of confidence that, I can figure this out on my own. And what I didn't know, I didn't know. And so, and Robex was doing pretty well at the time. So I said, I can do this. And this is how you take chances. You have to take risks in the entrepreneurial world. And so at the time, I wasn't married. I didn't have any children. I was living by myself. And so I could take a lot more risk back then than I can do now.
So it says here that you went from the one lounge to 6 restaurants, lounges.
So funny thing, you put your own money in your first place. You're successful, then people start calling you.
Yeah, starts throwing money at you.
Yeah. You guys probably see it too in a certain, from a real estate perspective. But everyone that makes money in another industry, whether it's tech or medicine or some sort of, idea, they always want to get into two things once they make a lot of money. They want to get into the real estate world, investing, building homes, whatever it is, or they want to get into the restaurant world, right? And the first thing I tell them is, why the heck would you want to do that? The restaurant world at the time. So I had a bunch of people call me and say, hey, we want to put together a group of guys, and we want to open up another nightclub. And at the time, I thought that market, especially here in DuPont, was a little saturated. And so a gentleman who's a local construction CEO called and said, I have the lease on Club 5, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Which is a 3-star.
That's a place I used to go all the time.
Yeah.
I was all there.
And I said, okay, what do you want to do with it? He said, I want to put a nightclub in it. I said, okay, who do you want to do it with? He goes, I want to do it with you. I said, it's not going to happen. He goes, why? He goes, we're just saturated. The market's saturated. I don't think it's going to be good. He goes, I've got the investors. We're doing a nightclub. I said, well, good luck. I'll help you in any way I can. A couple weeks later, he said, what would you put in there? And I said, I think it was a 2-story space with the potential for a rooftop. I said, I think a sports bar would be cool. He said, why would you do that? I said, well, I think of an idea of a sports bar / nightclub where you have a DJ, you have a bunch of TVs on the wall, and people can, you think about if you go out with your girlfriend or you go out with a bunch of friends, some people want to have the ability to have a good time and dance, but also watch the game that's going on at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And then you have at a rooftop. We didn't have a lot of rooftops at the time in DC. And so I always thought that if you built a rooftop, people would come, and people always want to be outside and have a good time. And so that started Public Bar, which is still here to this day. I think it's close to 20 years now. Oh. And so we did Public Bar. We did another one in Tenleytown. We crossed the river into Arlington, and we opened up Sushi Rock, which is in the bottom of a condo building in Courthouse slash Roslyn. We had a Mexican restaurant at one point. We took over the spot, which is Heist now, and we had that for a little bit. And then my last place that I did was the Griffin Room, which is right up here, right down in DuPont, which is being turned into a hotel now. And so at one point, like I said, I think I had 6 or 7 spots, being the managing partner of them. So I was responsible for the day-to-day, and so it was a lot of work. But I got to about 37 years old or so, and I said to myself, I really had a conversation with myself and said, I'm pretty good at this, but I don't love it, and I don't see myself doing it married with children. And that was kind of the next phase of my life, is I wanted to get married and have children. And so I've got to pick something else to do. And I went to a mentor of mine and a friend of mine who's my age, but I consider him a mentor, and said, I want to be you. And he was a real estate developer. And his name was Joe Boos. And I said to him, you might know him.
Yeah, name's familiar,
Yeah, a Valor Development at the time. And I said, I want to be a real estate developer. And this is when, real estate development in DC was changing so quickly. Right. Condo buildings were coming up, row houses were being flipped. And he said, well, do you have a big piece of land, or do you have a lot of money? And I looked at myself, I looked at my bank account, and I said, I don't have any land. I have neither. He said, go get your real estate license. And the look on my face and what I said, I won't repeat on this podcast. But in essence, I said, why would I do that? At the time, in my opinion, realtors were not considered like a great profession.
So let's stop you right there. Because that's funny you say that. I mean, real estate now, there's a celebrity aspect. We were just talking about this thing. Sure. There's a celebrity aspect to it. There's a media aspect to it. It's changed a lot. But I think traditionally, realtors were salespeople. Right. It's like here comes that realtor again.
Like a used car salesman.
Yeah,
right?
Trying to get 6% of my house or whatever.
Typically, you don't go to college to be a real estate agent. You're going for some other degree. Another path will lead you to real estate.
And you're doing all this entrepreneurial stuff where it's you built businesses, you're working with lots of people, and it's a lot of management. I hear you, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time, probably the industry didn't have a great reputation. Usually there's an 80-20 rule, right? In most things, I call it a 95-5 rule. Really, 5% of the agents, in my opinion, my humble opinion, really take it seriously, are professional, wake up every day seeing how they can help their clients achieve a dream, really. And 95% of them have one foot in, one foot out. They're doing it part-time. They're not very professional. The barrier to entry into our industry is very, very low. You pass a test, which you barely have to study for sometimes. Some people just are good test takers, and you have a license, and now you can go do whatever you want, right? Whether it's commercial, residential, and so forth. And so it was a humbling experience for me, because I went from running these 6 or 7 very popular places, and running around town in my 30s, and being able to get into any restaurant I wanted to, sitting anywhere I wanted to at sporting events, having these incredible friends, traveling the world. And now I'm going to be working open houses from 1 to 4 on Sundays, and
it's very humbling.
Yeah.
You go from Derek Jeter to how are you? Welcome to this house.
But Sherif, it's still humbling to me. It's I'm sitting at an open house last weekend, in 16th Street Heights. This is a listing that I've had for a while. It's been very slow over there, and I'm like, here I am for my 2 hours, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And so I call myself the accidental real estate agent, because I really, that wasn't my intention. I just needed to find something else to do to transition from hospitality to the next phase of my life. And I had a computer information systems degree from JMU, but I'd never programmed a day in my life. Even when I graduated, I was in sales. And so, I can't just go get a job somewhere, and I didn't want to work for someone else again. And so I sucked it up, like I said, and I went and got my license. And he made a good point. He said, listen, you've met all these interesting people in your nightclubs, in your restaurants, in your bars, and so forth. They all are, going to achieve something else. They're all making money now. They're getting older. They trust you when you were in the nightclub business. They're going to trust you in the next phase of your life, whatever you do. If you've built the right relationships, if you've earned their trust, if you've shown that you can act in a professional way. And I didn't see it at the time, quite frankly. And so I got my license, and I had a local professional athlete come to me and say, "Hey, man, you've helped me do this, this, and this. I'm looking to sell my condo and buy a house." I'd introduced him to his now wife, and we're looking to buy this house. Do you know a real estate agent that you can refer us? I said, "Oh," and this is like amazing timing, right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, I do. Give me 30 days." And he said, "What? Why 30 days?" And I was in the process of getting my license. And I told him that. He said, "Of course, I'll work with you no matter what. We'll wait for you." And so he was my first client. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I actually did the first deal with another agent at my brokerage, just so I could learn from it. But, he was our client. And that property was a purchase for about $2.5 million. And then he wanted to sell his condo for $1.5 million. Mm-hmm. And so the first two deals I did were considerable amount, I thought. And so I said, "Oh, this thing is not bad. I'm not taking any risk financially, and I see the commission that I could get." At the time, you could still get 3% for most things, right? Right. And I just started at the time. I first had my license with Long and Foster. That was brief, maybe a month, and then I switched it over to a smaller brokerage over in Virginia. But those were my first two deals, and I believe my third or fourth deal, was a purchase of a piece of land in Alexandria for around $6 million. So all of a sudden, I'm in this price point that I never thought I could achieve. I said, "Wait a second. I'm probably doing just as much work as the guy that's selling, something at a lower price point, but I'm getting a much higher commission. Let me try to focus on this. If I know the right people, I build those relationships, and I just focus on this little niche, which is luxury, I guess, in whatever definition you want to call that. This might be something that I really want to do. And then later on down the road, I can become a developer or do whatever I want to do." And so that's how, that's kind of how I got started.
So the first deal was from your previous life in nightclubs and restaurants, but the next 2, 3, 4 clients that came, were they same way, or is it referrals or friends?
The third guy was a friend of mine I've known for since high school, and he was I had referred him, the athlete, as a financial advisory client, and he said, "Oh yeah, well I just got married and I'm looking for a house," and I was in his wedding, and so the first, I don't know, dozen clients were just friends and family and referrals. The $6 million one was an interesting one. I was sitting out. It was the first Sunday I hadn't done an open house. The first year I did 47 weekends out of 52 weekends. I did open houses, and sometimes 2 open houses on those weekends. Mm-hmm. So one of the 5 that I didn't do, I'm sitting out in a cafe with my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, reading the newspaper. And at the time, there was a property that was being foreclosed on Cambridge Road on the Gold Coast. And I was reading about it. I was like, I'm going to, embrace everything about real estate. I'm going to learn everything about real estate. And I'm reading this while my girlfriend is like, "Can you put the newspaper away? We're trying to have coffee on a Sunday. Never get to see you." Yeah. She still does that, right. 15 years later as my wife. But now it's the phone, not the newspaper. Some friends walk by, and we start talking. And my friend's wife at the time says, hey, that's the house we're going to go look at. That's the house we're going to bid on through the auction. And my girlfriend looks at me. I look at her, and my friends. We start talking. We chat for a little bit, and then we get home. And I hadn't told anybody that I was a real estate agent yet. I was still a little, is this really what I'm going to do? I'm a little embarrassed by it. I was just the king of nightlife, right. And now I'm moving into this other field at a later age than most people. And so, my girlfriend at the time said, are you going to email him and tell him that you can represent him? You better. I said, okay. So I got in front of my computer and I thought for a while. I'm like, what am I supposed to say? What is he going to think of me? Like, and he was a very good friend of mine. And so I emailed him and said, you listen, I'll leave his name out, but hey, I'm in real estate now and I'd love to help you out if you're not working with anybody. I'm new, but I really want to work with you. He wrote me back within like seconds, or he might have even called me. He said, really? I had no idea. Of course, I'd work with you guys. And so that went from, not looking at that property at all to the $6 million property that he bought on a piece of land. And next thing you know, I'm like, wait a second, I've got some confidence in this. People trust me. People want to work with me, whether I'm in the nightlife or in real estate. And I try to tell people on my team now, like, that whole story and how it happened a little bit quicker for me. And a lot of it's luck. A lot of people tell me it's not luck. It's what you've been doing for the previous 10 years of your life. But that's how I built my business. I wasn't a guy that went out and bought leads or, I really wasn't. The funny story is about those open houses. I did 47 weekends. I did the math at the end of the year. I made $13,000 that entire year off of open houses. Okay.
Like how? Like maybe one buyer? Or...
It wasn't even that, Max.
Yeah.
It was the kind of team lead that I worked for at the time. I had done this one open house in Oakton. It was the most expensive house in Oakton. It was a new build. And I probably did it for 3 or 4 months straight, every Sunday. The builder didn't believe in putting staging in. So the house was probably 10,000 square feet. It was completely empty. No Wi-Fi, nothing.
Stranded.
Okay. I'd get up every day. I'd go do my workout on Sundays. Then I'd go to Starbucks. I'd get my iced green tea. I'd get the New York Times Sunday edition and the Washington Post Sunday. I spent like $10 on newspapers because I had 3 hours and there were days where nobody came in.
Right.
And so I'd read the whole, and then the builder would come in and feel bad for me because there was no furniture. I'd be sitting on the floor. So he bought 2 Home Depot folding chairs. He brought them in. And for the last month or so that we were in there, he would come in. We'd clean the place up, work on it a little bit, and he would teach me about the building business. His name was George Sagatoff. He's probably, I don't even know if he builds anymore, but I learned more about.
So many houses.
He's built so many houses for so many celebrities and so many interesting people in Northern Virginia and DC. And I learned, it was like this class on luxury real estate from one of the most incredible builders out there for free. It's just my time. But how I made that $13,000 was the team lead was bringing somebody to look at the house, and it happened to be on a Sunday while I was there at the open house. And so I took the lead and showed them around. They ended up buying the house. And my team lead felt so bad for me. It wasn't my client. And I didn't have the listing. I was trying to find clients at the listing. He said, because you'd worked so hard on this, George had thought that it would be a good idea for me to pay you something. So I didn't actually even kind of have the client that bought it. It was kind of a payment for my hard work at those open houses and my relationship that I had built with George over the time, and that he had told the agent, hey, you need to give something to Sherif. So I realized too, I wasn't the guy that was going to be the most successful open house, agent. And one of the things I learned is, you build a team around you where you focus on what you're really good at, and everything else you kind of give it to somebody else to do, where you just don't focus on it. There's so many different ways to sell real estate. There's so many different types of real estate. So you got to kind of figure out what you're really good at and focus on that.
So just real quick, fast forward to take today's time. Are you doing open houses now?
I'm almost embarrassed to say. I probably haven't done an open house in 6 years.
Wow.
And I could tell you our team is very successful in open houses.
Well, you just alluded to, you know what your strengths are, right?
Yeah.
So some people, they can wine and dine and pull in, a great client base just off open houses, and they'll work the phones at desk duty. They'll do the floor time at an open house, and they can pull in people, and that's their 80% of their business. Other people realize very early on, like yourself, it's not my cup of tea. I'm better off sitting down at Cafe Milano having coffee and tea and walking by, seeing someone and getting a $6.5 million buyer.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually, I suggest to any new agent that comes into the business to start with open houses. At this point, I suggest they start on a team. We didn't have teams back when I started, and probably, definitely when you guys started, and or you'd have like a partnership or something, but you didn't have the teams. And I think once I joined Compass, they were really pushing creating teams, and I'm sure at Sotheby's it's the same thing. But you got to learn the business from somebody, and you got to learn the business. And the most effective and efficient cost-wise to learn the business is to be on a team, but also what is the cheapest way to get a client? And the best way is an open house. It doesn't cost you anything but time, right? And so you have this captive audience that comes in to look at these homes. Whatever percentage of them are not working with an agent, and whether they buy that home, you know that they're looking. And so if you want to focus on a certain condo building or a certain neighborhood or a certain price point, go find homes, neighborhoods, or condo buildings that you're trying to work and go do open houses for them, whether it's for listings that your team has, or go find another broker or agent that you trust or you respect and say, can I do your open houses, right? And that's how you're going to capture your clientele if you don't have a network or if you haven't lived in the area for a long time. I suggest that to all of our team. We had one guy joined our team a few years ago. I think he might have been doing $1 million or $2 million. He was about to get out of the business. And we said, hey, we need someone like you to do our open houses. He said, sure. Last year, he did north of $20 million. And I would say 95% of the business was from open houses.
That's impressive.
So it cost him no money. $20 million is a lot of sales.
A lot of sales.
And he just knew how to work the open houses. He learned from us. He listened, and now he went out on his own. He's doing great.
Before we get into your team, going into the open house is a little deeper. So you're at a property pitch. You're talking to the seller. How do you pitch that? I'm not doing the open houses, but I have a team or a staff or the firm doing the open house. What are you saying to the seller who some developers demand every Sunday until it closes out?
Yeah. That's a goal. So I have a partner who does all of our open houses. And so we typically go on the listings together. And if we don't, I set the expectation from the beginning. That's why I have a partner. And one of the reasons I had one, and I'll get more into that, is when I started having children, it was very important for me to spend as much time with them as possible. And most of that time is on the weekends. COVID changed things, right? Because now people are working from home a lot more, so they can go out and see homes any time of the week versus just on the weekends. And so I tell them straight up, I said, I'm not very good at open houses. I'm good at setting the property up for sale. I'm good at working my network to try to find a buyer, whether it's buyers that we have or other agents, and building those relationships with agents. I know what I'm good at, but I also know what Ali is very good at, and he's incredible at open houses. And so I'm not going to do an open house for you, but my team will, and we'll hold it open as many times as you need us to, because we do believe in open houses. We also believe 100% that an agent has to be at basically every showing. So that goes hand in hand with open houses. And we try to do open houses with our team first. And if we're spread too thin, then we'll bring in other agents from Compass. We'll even do other agents from other brokerages, whatever works, because our first goal is to sell that property as soon as possible. So I just set the expectation from the beginning that I probably will not be doing the open house because I'm not good at it.
So we're with Sherif Abdalla from Compass Real Estate here in DC. By the way, you said you had never done a podcast before.
This is great.
You're incredible.
Teach a master class on it.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your business now. Tell us about your team and your structure of your team.
Yeah. So I was always a solo agent, basically all the way until I got to Compass. And then quickly we had twins. So, we had a child before that, so we have 3. And it's interesting. When I left Sotheby's, I had an incredible experience at Sotheby's. I learned a lot. I created some incredible relationships, and really understood the luxury market when I was there. And so that really helped propel my career. And when I left, as soon as I left, I got a lot of calls saying, "Why are you going over there? Sotheby's is the pinnacle of real estate." And And so one gentleman called me and said, I need to sit down with you. I'd met him once in an alley of a townhouse community. He'd given me his card. So I said, come on in. And I thought maybe he just wanted to learn more about Compass, and you know, we were growing at that point. And so he said, I want to be your partner. I said, I don't even know your name, basically, barely. I really didn't. I didn't even know how to pronounce his name. And but I liked his aggression. I liked his, you know, his understanding of real estate. And at the time, he was really focused on new construction, rehabbing projects. He was buying a lot of projects himself at the courthouse steps and flipping them. And that's something I just never understood. But I wanted to learn more about it. So I said, you know, why don't you come over to Compass and we'll do some deals together. And like I said, I quote unquote, let's get engaged. Okay. Right. And the reason why is because I have these twins that are here and I want to spend more time at home, and I can't manage my business by myself and grow at the same rate that I want to grow it, just individually. And I had an admin, but she wasn't licensed and she couldn't really help on the weekends. And so he said, engage. I said, yeah, anything you bring in, you get the majority share. Anything I bring in, I get the majority share, because I've got some pretty big clients, and you know, they're probably gonna be bigger than yours. He said, okay, let's do that.
Probably bigger than yours.
Yeah.
No, I just was honest. Like, I had built these relationships for a really, really long time, and I didn't know the guy, you know, and I'm a trusting guy, but this is my livelihood, and I'm growing a family, and I don't have a salary, and my risk tolerance is changing. Right. And so I was like trying to save and, you know, thinking about, okay, well, I'm going to have to get a bigger house, a bigger car. You know, my wife was going to stop working at the time, or you know, leave work for a little bit to handle these 3 kids that we have. We had 3 under the age of 2 at the time.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I was like, what are we doing? You know?
Right.
And within the first 2 years of being married, right? So I got married when I was 40. By 42, I had 3 kids, right? And so I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then this guy wants to get married too. So I'm going to have 2 wives, right? A work wife and a home wife. So, so we did that for about 6 months, and it worked out pretty well. And so at the end of the year, he said, why don't we, you know, see if we can put together some sort of partnership and build a team. We really didn't want to build a big team. We just wanted people to be able to service our clients and do open houses. That was kind of our goal. We were never a team that created a lot of leads. Most people that we worked with wanted to work with us directly. And so we had to set that expectation with all the agents that came on board. But up until then, we built a team, and we had 9 people in the team as of December of last year. 2 admin and 7 agents.
What do your admins do? I mean, they're just...
One is well, it kind of changed this year, but one was traditionally just a transaction coordinator and a marketing person. And the other one was more on the field. She would do a lot of getting the signs out, getting the brochures out, doing a lot of that stuff. But she became licensed a couple of years ago. And so her business started to grow, and she did less and less of the stuff in the field. And so we said, you know, we're going to need you just to be an agent. And so, but then at the end of last year, 4 of the agents had moved on, all to go out on their own because they'd done so well. And I encourage that. You know, we take a hit in our business, but if I can help agents achieve their dreams and make more money and do the things that they want to do, that's what happened to me when I first started. Then I've done something right. And I encourage them. I said, you guys are always welcome to come back on our team. But even in the beginning, when they started on our team, I said, listen, I don't expect you to be with me forever, whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years. Just give me at least a year, and after that, you make your own decision, and I'll help you do whatever you want to do, whether you want to go on another team, you want to go out on your own, you want to go to a different brokerage, I'll be a great reference for you. Yeah,
I have the same outlook, exactly, because we have a good team too, and similar, we've had other agents that have left our group, and we're always the biggest sounding board. We want them to succeed because it's a testimony back to the agent that brought them in, that you did a great job of, you know, raising this great agent that's now doing great things out in the field. Yeah. So I'm a huge proponent of exactly what you said. You're not going to be with us forever. When you're ready to go, I'll help you do the transition, whether it's on to another team or starting your own team or whatever you want to do.
It kind of goes back to if you guys are into sports, you get like coaching trees,
Yes.
right? And so in football and basketball, they'll say it's the Bill Parcells coaching tree or the Nick Saban coaching tree. And so if I can do that and leave that mark on real estate, then I'll be happy. I want to have some really good agents out there saying, "Oh, I used to work for Sherif, or I used to work with Ali." So,
what do you think about the market right now? We just came out of a huge pandemic market. I'm assuming your team had your best year ever, one of those 2 years. What do you think about the market now and where things are going in the DC area?
Yeah, I don't like the market the way it is right now. I think the best market is when it's balanced. We have a house for sale, we have a buyer, they make a deal. It's either at list price, a little less, a little above. Maybe there's 2 offers for it, but that it's a balanced market. When you have an unbalanced market, expectations aren't met with clients. Agents, relationships change because they don't have control of the deal sometimes. You don't have control of your seller. You don't have control of expectations. People say that we're waiting on a deadline of Monday at noon to accept any offers, and then Saturday at noon it's under contract already, or it's incoming soon, and no one's allowed to see it.
And then suddenly it's under contract.
Then suddenly it's under contract, and it's a sight unseen offer for a $3 million house.
Right.
I doubt anyone's buying a $3 million house sight unseen. That's not a good market for us, because if you're a buyer's agent, you set expectations with your client and you say, hey, it says in the remarks there, I've talked to the agent, it says they're not accepting any offers till Monday. And then it goes under contract on a Saturday. You lose trust with your buyer, right? And you had nothing, you didn't do anything wrong. So then you learn from that, and then you start being that person that puts in the offers early,
right?
And then it creates this marketplace where nobody knows what's going on. And so right now, I think it's a seller's market still. I think that the buyers have come around the fact that the interest rates are not going to be 2.5% and 3% anymore, and they've probably doubled at a minimum. And it took from about August of last year, 2022, to mid-January of 2023, for people to wrap their heads around, okay, the shock is off. It's okay. 6% is not crazy. It's still relatively low. If you ask your parents, I'm probably a little bit older than you guys, but if you ask your parents what the interest rates were when they purchased their first homes, they were in the teens, mid to high teens. Okay. So we're now talking low single digits. They're still historically low. And so I haven't had a conversation with a buyer in this market about interest rates in now 4 months.
Yeah, I think they're used to it. I mean, we were up at Inman in January, and a lot of those guys up on the stage said that the buyers went on strike in the fall, and all of that was a direct reflection of the rate. Mm-hmm. So now the rate is what it is, and you're buying or you're not buying.
That's right.
The rate's not an issue.
That's right. And
Brent,
so,
wait, I just want to say though, Brent, did you see like the likability factor of Sherif there, where he's like giving us deference, where he's saying like, you guys are probably younger than me, but yet we're also more experienced.
No,
somehow,
yeah, I'm definitely younger. Yeah, I'll take that.
Exactly. I'm just saying, like, but somehow he made it like.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why I shaved my head, so nobody knows how old I am. So
yeah. I keep telling people I'm 35. I'll be 70 with gray hair, hair coming out my ears. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm still 35.
Yeah, exactly.
I get the remarks sometimes. It's like, you haven't aged in a while. I'm like, it's expensive.
Yes,
okay?
It is. It is. That's funny. I just don't sometimes realize how old I've gotten. It's just like, it's crazy. But kids will keep you younger or get you older really quickly. But
how old are your kids?
I have a 6-year-old and I have twins that turned 5 in June.
Okay.
So it's a busy lifestyle. But the market, I think we're still dealing with some sellers that have some, this might, some sellers might not talk to me after this, but they're unrealistic expectations with price. I find that, and just to, it might not be in all markets around here. You guys might think differently, but predominantly most of our business is in Northern Virginia and in DC. And I find most of our clients still think that they can get prices of 2021 and parts of 2022. And so they want to list it at higher prices. What I'm finding that if you price it correctly in this market, you might get multiple offers and it will go higher. But if you price it too high, you're not going to get multiple offers, if that makes sense. No one's going to chase that number, okay?
For sure.
And so that's the homes that you still see on the market right now that are good homes are just usually priced incorrectly, even in this market.
No, I agree with that.
Right? I mean, when someone's going to deal with that type of rate increase from a couple of years ago, they're going to be a little bit pickier, and they're going to be a little bit more. They're going to be a little bit more careful with how much they spend. But I'll tell you, some houses have sold for some numbers that I didn't expect they were going to sell for. Especially in our market.
No doubt.
So this is all great data on the industry itself. Going back, because you've been in the industry for 10 years, you've got amazing contacts. Do you have a CRM that you're working with, or how do you stay in touch and in front of your people on a regular basis?
I saw that question before when you guys prepped me for this, and I started laughing because, at Compass, we're a tech company that have a lot of tools, and we have our own CRM, and it's I heard it's incredible. I've never used it. Okay, Robert Refkin and
Never
whoever
logged in.
else is gonna slap me on the wrist for that. Holly, Ali, my partner, uses all of our technology, and he's incredible at it, and it helps his business tremendously. My CRM is this phone. Okay, and I'm not as organized as I should be, but this is my CRM. Every contact I have, every person I know goes into this phone. I carry this phone with me 24/7. I'll buy the nicest, most expensive phone all the time. This is the most valuable tool I have. And so I use text messaging a lot, email, phone calls. Although I'm not on it all day, I do use it. So my CRM is we don't have a CRM that we technically, I don't even know how to log into my CRM. My admin does some of that. But that's not where I'm good at.
Do you have a client list? So you're sending holiday cards, or even in your phone. Like I use my phone, that's my CRM as well, but I have Apple reminders. So it's like, the 500 people in my phone, I know when to contact them and what I'm going to say. But it prompts me like, today's Wednesday, you got to call these 20 people.
Yeah, I use my calendar a lot. I'm very good at that. One of the things that I do that I tell my team to do is, at nighttime when you're at the doctor's office or you're eating lunch by yourself, and I like to read things on the phone a lot. So I'm reading newspapers, I'm reading Twitter, you're going through Instagram, whatever it is that you read, and just kind of decompress for the day. If I see something that I know that Brent is interested in, or Max and I have talked about in the past, whether it's another agent or a client or a referral partner, I send that to them. It's kind of a reminder, like I need to reach out to Brent. He's really into basketball, and I just saw this article about the Wizards, and let me send it to him. Mm-hmm. And it reconnects us. It also tells him, hey, listen, Sherif's thinking about me, right? And I'm not trying to get any business from them, but I'm still trying to stay connected to them. And I'm also, thinking about, okay, how can I cultivate that relationship? What is he into? Is Max into golf? Let's go golfing together. And so that's more of the stuff that I remind myself to do. Our admin has the CRM that says, hey, it's Max's birthday, let's send him something, or what are we doing for a closing gift here? Or we need to follow up with that lead from a couple months ago. Hey, Sherif, you should call so-and-so from a couple months ago. The CRM prompted that. So it's kind of a mix of both, I guess.
All right, we talked a little bit about the current market, and you think it's still a seller's market, which I agree with you. Pricing is still really important. But going beyond that, in terms of how do you look at the future of being a realtor in our area, and what you have a team, you've got agents coming and going. What do you think of the future of the market and your business? Do you have any predictions on that?
I don't know if I have a prediction, but I do think that this is a very, very competitive market. Okay. And we have a lot of really, really good agents here, and really intelligent buyers and sellers. And so every intelligent buyer and seller is going to do their due diligence on who they work with. And they're going to check really quickly they're going to figure out really quickly who the best agents are. And so once you get a certain point in your career, you kind of think you've made it, but you really haven't, because I'm sitting across two guys right now that could easily take, not take, but could be just as good as I am with my clients. And so you always have to stay at the top of your game. And I think there'll be a lot of agents that are unable to stay in the business because the top agents who've been around, who take it seriously, are only going to get better. And with the use of technology and the ability to market properties, market yourself via technology, it's actually getting a lot more cost efficient to do that. You don't have to spend, $5,000, $10,000 in print ads anymore for a property. You can do it now on, Facebook, Instagram, other social media platforms for a fraction of the cost. Mm-hmm. And so it's the agents that I see doing really, really well are the ones that are out there constantly working, getting in front of clients, not being complacent. Yeah, you had a great year last year, but this business is ultimately, what have you done for me lately? So you got to start again the next year, right? And get out there and, go to the social events, go to the conferences, go up to Inman, learn more. It's a constant business. I don't understand why agents, it's like, okay, I just did this deal. I'm going to go celebrate for 2 days. Yeah, that's great. Go celebrate. But like, to me, it's like, I just did this deal. Where's the next one? Where's the next one? Who else can I work with? And I think those agents will kind of rise to the top. I think property values are going to continue to be strong and continue to go up. We have the 3 largest employers in the country in our backyard. We have the federal government, we have the military, we have Amazon, which really still hasn't, kind of hired as many people as they promised us. And then we have all the support companies to those. And we have extremely intelligent people here. Most of the people have dual degrees, dual incomes, are very conservative with their money. Where they put their money is mostly in their properties, in their homes. And so we're, to a certain extent, recession resistant in a way. And so I would rather be here in this market as it grows and into the future than some of the other markets that you see some crazy numbers on some of these homes, but it's up and down based on the way the economy is.
Yeah, it's a very steady market here, and you're absolutely right. Like, there's no complacency on a day-to-day basis. It's like, it's not even like, where's the next deal? It's like, you got to really work hard every day.
Oh, I've got to work much harder now.
Yeah.
And these next couple of years will be the last 2 years were kind of a joke in a way.
Right.
I mean, it was easy to sell homes.
It's too easy.
You know
it's too easy.
It was too easy. And we all had great years and we all were successful, but anyone could have been successful in those 2 years. I hate to say it. And so how do you keep that up and service your clients? It's all about customer service. It's all about customer service, because when the client gets to you, they have the data already. It used to be, hey, I want to go see a house in McLean for $2 million. Can you go look on the MLS and send me a list of everything that, I remember that you have to print it out or,
right.
Bring it to you. And then now it's, hey, Sherif, I want to see this specific house.
Yeah.
And they get there and they probably know more about the house than I do because they want to see it today.
Every time. And
I haven't had a chance to research it, but they've spent the last 3 nights on Zillow or Compass.com or Realtor.com or Sotheby's site to find that house and go through the virtual tour, do the floor plans, get the comps.
Right.
They've dissected
That's
it.
true. So
They've dissected. And same from the seller's perspective. I know what my house is worth. Here are the comps.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so how do you differentiate yourself? It used to be you had the data, you knew the neighborhood. And to a certain extent, you still need to know that. It's, how am I going to service this client the best? How am I going to give them an advantage in this purchase or in this sale? And a lot of that has to do with integrity, experience, know-how. I always tell people, and you guys have heard this before, you're not paying me. This is a whole nother probably podcast about commissions. You're not paying me for the sale of this house. You're paying me for the previous 10 years that I've learned how to put myself in position to sell this house. Think about that. Like, they always think, oh, house is going to be really easy. You're going to sell it in 2 seconds. I might sell in 2 seconds, and you want me to sell in 2 seconds.
Right.
That's why you're hiring me, because I know how to do it in 2 seconds.
Right. It's literally everything else I've ever done is what it adds up to.
Yeah. But people don't think that way sometimes.
Yeah.
That's great.
Sherif, thank you so much for coming out today and sharing everything with us. It's fantastic. Really great interview.
Thank you guys. You guys have made it very comfortable to do this, and I respect you guys both very much. And you guys are leaders in the industry, and I really appreciate you guys thinking about bringing me on, because it's an honor to to be on this podcast with you guys. So
See this, look at the smile.
Yeah.
This guy's amazing. Like,
I mean
makes
it.
you feel
I mean
so
it.
comfortable, right?
I know I'm selling my house.
Right, as always. All right, so Brent's got his rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, we're doing that. Okay, let's go.
5 easy questions here. What's your food kryptonite?
Candy
Candy. Mine too.
or French fries.
You got a favorite French fry? Like from La Diplomat or Wendy's or
Yeah, no. I mean, I think if made right, McDonald's are the
McDonald's?
best.
Those are good.
Still? Really?
Well, I don't eat McDonald's anymore, but my kids do, and so. But no, I don't have a favorite French fry. Yeah.
What book are you currently reading, or what book would you recommend to our listeners?
The book I recommend to everybody in any industry, any walk of life, I have it on my nightstand, is Ego is the Enemy.
Very definitive about that one.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the best books I've read, and the other one is Mindset by Carol Dweck. Basically, Ego, the Enemy is
I've read that one.
every decision you make in your day to day, whether it's personal, relationship, business, is started with your ego. And if you can replace that thought, how does it affect me, as opposed to how can it affect the person I'm dealing with first, you'll be better in life.
Who would play you in a movie?
The Rock.
The Rock?
I used to be a lot more muscular, but I like The Rock.
I think that works.
Only because the kids were watching some kid movie. I think it was called The Pacifier, but it had Van Diesel in it.
Yeah, I've gone Vin Diesel. I've gone Jason Taylor, which used to be the Miami Dolphins player. So
yeah, the hairstyle was the Jason Taylor for sure.
Yeah, I actually got someone actually thought I was him down in Florida at one point.
Did you sign an autograph?
I played it, and then he played for the Skins for 1 year, if you guys remember.
Right.
And we ended up in the same nightclub, standing right next to each other. That was fun.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Last two are sports questions. By the time this airs, there may or may not be an NBA champion. Who do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be the Nuggets. I wish it was the Heat. I think Eric Spoelstra as a coach and Pat Riley as a president of operations are two of the most incredible sports figures that we'll see in this day. Eric Spoelstra started as a video coordinator, in a small little room, and has won 2 championships, taken them to the NBA Finals with 3 undrafted players starting this year for the Heat. Their second top scorer, broken hand, and Jimmy Playoff Butler leading the way. My kid and I, he's gotten into sports the last couple of years, and we stay up and watch games, and so he knows more about the statistics than I do. But he wants the Nuggets to win, so I'm rooting for the Nuggets. He likes Jokic.
Nuggets are strong.
So you've already put, at the time of this recording, the Heat are up 3-1 on the Celtics. So you've already got the Celtics out. They're done.
I was surprised they won last night.
Yeah,
honestly,
that was kind of a lucky thing there.
The Celtics need a little change.
This next one is a great debate going on and will for time to come. LeBron or Michael? Who's the greatest of all time?
It's not even a debate. I don't even want to answer that question. It's Michael by far. I have the debate with a lot of people that I deal with on a daily basis. Luckily, my oldest son is a Michael guy through and through. They're different. They shouldn't be compared to each other. Michael was a killer. He was a scorer. He was a defender. He wasn't as good of a passer as LeBron. He led a different way. But he's 6-0 in the NBA Finals, and there'll never be anybody else like that. And not only that, he created a whole culture. Walk down the street right now, you'll see men, women, children, all of different ages wearing his shoes. Still, he hasn't played in 20 years. Okay,
$400 million a year in
$400
shoes.
million a year. LeBron James, you couldn't find anyone wearing his stuff. Now, LeBron is the best all-around player of all time, probably one of the best leaders, and he's more of a facilitator that made other players better. But he still only has 4 rings, and he won't win another ring. And don't we grade people's history and success by championships?
True.
I think that's pretty important. I will also mention, so my girlfriend and I are watching, like I don't watch NBA throughout the year, but it's like, it's playoffs time, so it's on every night. and we were watching Inside the NBA, and Barkley and Kenny and everyone, and she's like, so she has no idea. I'm like, Barkley the other night was like dressing down the Celtics. He's like, that was pathetic. That was like the worst. Like, that's an insult to the entire Celtics organization, what just happened in the first half. And she's like, wow. And I was talking about like who Charles Barkley is. And she's like, well, who's that guy? I'm like, Kenny Smith. So I had to like remind myself who Kenny Smith was. Kenny Smith played for the Rockets when in the years when Jordan wasn't playing. And that was the only time when Jordan wasn't winning championships, was when he wasn't in the league.
I mean, do you think he could have gone 8-0?
Sure.
That team was the same team.
That's all. That was the only difference, was that he wasn't there.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have gone 8-0. I think that break,
Helped
2
him.
years out, come back more energized, driven, determination to get those next 3. I think he would have gone maybe like 5-1. I think he would have lost one somewhere in between there, maybe the last one.
Yeah. Well, and also, LeBron, it's normal now, but he created a super team in Miami. He couldn't win before that. And which now it's normal and people do it all the time. And
you don't think Scotty, Michael, and Rodman are a super team?
Scotty and Jordan were drafted.
Right.
Rodman got brought in, but I bet you if I told you that the other players that were on that team and who they were, you might know it, but most people won't know who they are.
Right. True.
Right. But you had Ray Allen. You had on one of those teams, you had Bosh.
Right.
You had Dwayne Wade. You had LeBron. Those are 4 Hall of Fame players.
Birdman.
Yeah, Birdman. It's just a different era. It's not fair to compare them. It really isn't. The game was different then. You could take someone's head off. The Knicks and the Pistons would try to take, Jordan's head off, and if you touch LeBron, it's a foul.
I know the tippy tap stuff when they do the replays.
Yeah,
you're like, oh my god.
The one, because I still play basketball. I don't know, we're long on time here, but the one argument that I always rev people up with, I'm like, the most transformative player ever in the history in the NBA is Steph Curry.
Oh yeah.
Because you've got guys that are, even Dwight Howard, when he left, he was out there shooting threes and knocking them down.
Steph Curry changed the entire game. He's made a whole new generation of players that would never play basketball in a weird way. He's kind of the Tiger Woods of basketball, because you have these guys that are a little bit shorter in stature that would never have even been taken a look at in college or in high school or in NBA, and now have a chance if they can shoot like Steph.
Right.
And he's a good guy. That's with my kid. I try to get him to like good guys. And LeBron, the one thing about LeBron is as hyped as he was coming out of high school, to be able to play 20 years in the NBA, never get in trouble, have a great career, always have teammates that loved you, as successful as he was, that's pretty impressive. Some guys can't even get out of their own way. They're, in a few years into the league.
Right.
And but the other thing is he's played 7 years longer than Jordan, and he still doesn't have as many championships.
Right.
So.
Well, that was like the longest answer to a rapid fire we've ever had.
Well,
that was great. That went full
that.
sports radio
I'm
right
very
there.
passionate about Michael Jordan versus LeBron. So.
Well, you asked the right question.
Yeah.
All right, Sherif, thanks so much for coming
Thank
out.
you.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.